She was called slow and untalented in school. They said she was a dreamer, her head always lost in the clouds, her gaze fixed on something far beyond the classroom walls. Teachers would sigh, their patience wearing thin as she struggled with concepts her classmates seemed to grasp effortlessly. Her report cards were a consistent litany of needs improvement and lacks focus. The other children, with the casual cruelty that often marks youth, would whisper and point. They called her slow, a label that stuck to her like a shadow, following her through the hallways and into the playground. She wasn't disruptive or defiant, she was just quiet. She existed on the periphery, a ghost in her own academic life, her potential seemingly buried under layers of misunderstanding and low expectations. The world of numbers and rigid facts felt alien to her, a language she couldn't quite decipher. While others celebrated A's and B's, she learned to find solace in the quiet dignity of simply trying, even when failure felt like a certainty. The sting of being underestimated became a familiar, albeit unwelcome, companion. It wasn't that she didn't want to learn. It was that the standardized, one-size-fits-all method of teaching felt like trying to solve a beautiful, complex puzzle with the wrong set of tools. Her mind didn't move in straight lines. It meandered down winding paths, finding fascination in the texture of a leaf, the pattern of light on the floor, or the intricate story woven into a piece of music. These were the things that made sense to her, the subjects not graded on any test. The world saw a failure, a student destined for mediocrity. She saw a world full of wonders that her school simply had no more curriculum for. The pressure to conform, to speed up, to be like everyone else, was immense. It was a constant, low-humming anxiety that threatened to drown out the quiet, persistent voice inside her that whispered, just keep going. But she kept learning at her own pace. Freed from the rigid confines of the school bell and the judgmental eyes of her peers, she began to build her own curriculum, one guided by curiosity rather than obligation. Her education didn't stop when the school day ended. In many ways, that's when it truly began. The public library became her sanctuary, a cathedral of knowledge where she could wander for hours without a deadline. She didn't follow a reading list, she followed her intuition. One book on ancient civilizations would lead her to another on mythology, which would then spark an interest in astronomy and the stories people told about the stars. She discovered that learning wasn't a race. It was a journey of discovery, and she was content to be a patient explorer. She filled notebooks not with copied down lecture notes, but with sketches, observations, and questions. She taught herself to code by tinkering with free online tutorials, spending late nights bathed in the glow of her monitor, celebrating small victories as she debugged a line of code or made a simple program run. She learned about botany not from a textbook diagram, but by tending to a small garden on her windowsill, observing the slow, miraculous unfurling of a new leaf and learning the hard-won lessons of overwatering and pests. She discovered a passion for photography, saving up for a second-hand camera and teaching herself about aperture, shutter speed, and composition. Through her lens, she learned to see the world differently, to find beauty in the mundane and the stories in the overlooked details. Each new skill was a quiet act of rebellion against the labels that had been placed upon her. Each small success was a testament to her own unique rhythm. She wasn't learning to prove anyone wrong. She was learning because it brought her joy, because it made her feel alive and connected to the world in a way that school never could. Her pace was deliberate, thoughtful, and deeply personal. She wasn't just accumulating facts. She was building a rich, interconnected web of understanding, weaving together disparate threads of knowledge into a tapestry that was uniquely her own. She was laying a foundation, brick by painstaking brick, for a future that no one else could have possibly envisioned for her. One day, she surprised everyone with her success. It didn't happen overnight with a sudden, dramatic flourish. It was more like the slow, inevitable turning of a season. The girl who was once dismissed as slow had cultivated a rare and powerful combination of skills. Her self-taught coding abilities, born from late-night tinkering, led her to a junior developer role at a small tech startup. Her colleagues were initially surprised by her unconventional background, but they were soon won over by her creative problem-solving and her calm, methodical approach. The same mind that had wandered in history class was now adept at seeing the big picture, at connecting disparate parts of a complex software system in ways that others missed. Her passion for photography, once a quiet hobby, began to gain traction. She started a blog, combining her evocative images with thoughtful, well-researched prose about her explorations in nature, a skill honed during her solitary years in the library. People were drawn to her unique voice and her ability to find profound beauty in the ordinary. Her blog grew a dedicated following, and soon, magazines and brands began to take notice. They wanted to hire her, not just for her technical skill with a camera, but for her artistic vision. At a school reunion years later, she walked in not as the forgotten, quiet girl, but as a confident woman with a celebrated career. Her former classmates, now accountants, lawyers, A&D managers, looked at her with a mixture of awe and confusion. They remembered the girl who struggled with algebra, but they couldn't reconcile that memory with the accomplished artist and the developer standing before them. They saw the success, the published photos, the impressive job title. What they didn't see were the thousands of hours of quiet, dedicated work. They didn't see the library books, the failed coding experiments, the early mornings spent chasing the perfect light. Her success wasn't a sudden miracle. It was the culmination of a long, patient, and deeply personal journey. She had proven that the timeline for growth is not universal, and that the most vibrant flowers are often the ones that take the longest to bloom. She had not only found her own path, she had built it from scratch, at her own pace, guided by her own light.